Hi and welcome to the MALAT Cookery channel. Today we're going to be cooking a steak, just going through the basics of what you need to do to produce a good steak. We're also going to be making the perfect peppercorn sauce, and when you see how easy it is to make a peppercorn sauce, you'll hopefully never go back to using a packet peppercorn sauce mix again. The spice blend we're going to be using today from the MALAT range is the Montreal Steakhouse Seasoning. Now, I probably shouldn't say this, but Montreal Steakhouse Seasoning is by far my favourite of all of the spice blends that MALAT do. And it is inspired, I think for legal reasons we have to say inspired, it's inspired by an original recipe by a guy called Morris the Shadow Sherman. Just the name alone is cool. And he was a broiler man who worked in the Schwartz Deli in Montreal in the 1950s, and this is just by far the best steak seasoning that I've ever tasted. So we're just going to go through the basics of how to prepare and cook a steak. We're going to show you how to make a delicious peppercorn sauce. As usual, full list of ingredients at the end of the video, so let's have a look at what we need for today's recipe. Right, so what we're going to need, obviously, a piece of steak. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to tell you which piece of steak to use, which cut. I am nowhere near qualified to do that. However, my local butcher is. So I buy a lot of our meat from the local butcher. And if you haven't used a local butcher for a while, or you've never used them, then give them a go. You'll be amazed at how competitive they are compared to the supermarket prices. But also the supermarkets just can't compete with the knowledge that a family-run butcher business has. So this is a small piece of rump steak that we've got. We'll also need about a heaped teaspoon of the MALAT Montreal Steakhouse Seasoning, a large knob of unsalted butter. This is unsalted Irish butter. We're going to need some olive oil as well, about 4 to 5 tablespoons of olive oil. Now this is for frying, and you're going to use more than you would normally put into a pan for frying, because not only are we going to fry the steak in the butter and olive oil, we're also going to use the residue of that to create our peppercorn sauce. We've also got a tablespoon of plain flour. We've got whole peppercorns, but we're going to grind those, and also sea salt. We're going to use those to season the peppercorn sauce. And we've also got 200 ml of semi-skimmed milk. So first thing we need to do is actually season the steak. Now if you're going to season any meat or fish, what you'll see from all of the videos that I do where meat or fish is seasoned, one of my pet hates is watching videos where people just season the piece of meat or fish and then cook it straight away. Because in my view, all you're doing there is you're just seasoning the oil. You'll get some flavour within the meat, but it'll only be on the surface. So what we're going to do is we're going to season this piece of steak. We're going to place it into a sandwich bag and place it into the fridge for a minimum of 2 hours. Again, as usual, overnight would be better, but we haven't got time to do that. So we're going to season this piece of steak, place it into the food bag, put it into the fridge and leave it for about 2 hours. So we take the Montreal Steakhouse Seasoning, or whatever seasoning you're using, and give it a generous coating on both sides. Okay, this little bit of residue that's left, I'm going to leave that for the actual peppercorn sauce. I'm going to place that into the peppercorn sauce when we make that. So we place the steak into the bag. Now, as I said, this will now go into the fridge for a minimum of 2 hours, and then we'll come back and actually cook the steak. So the steak has been in the fridge for about 2 hours. What's really important now with this steak is that we've allowed it to come up to room temperature. So it's actually been stood outside of the fridge for about 20 minutes. And that's really important, especially if you've got a thicker cut of steak, because obviously that allows the meat to be cooked properly and it will be nice and tender all the way through. So we've got 4 or 5 tablespoons of olive oil in the pan heating up. It's a lot more than you'd normally fry with, especially in a non-stick pan such as this. But again, as I said, we're going to be using this to fry the steak, but then we're also going to be using it to make the peppercorn sauce. So into that I add the unsalted butter. And then once that's melted, we're going to add the steak. Now, as far as cooking times go, it's difficult to actually estimate. Every single piece of steak is different, obviously different thicknesses as well. But for this particular size of steak, I'm looking at producing a medium steak, and so I'm looking at about 2.5 to 3 minutes either side. About 2.5 minutes, I think, for this steak either side. That'll produce a medium steak. So into that I add the steak. Again, as I said, about 2.5 minutes on either side. As the flavours from the seasoning come out into the oil, just want to baste that steak. The steak's now been cooking for about 2.5 minutes, so it's time to turn the steak over. And again, if you can just baste this side with those juices. So this steak has now been cooking for about 2.5 minutes on either side to create a medium steak. That's exactly what I want. The next thing to do, and just as important as allowing the steak to rest when it comes from the fridge, is allowing the steak to rest before you actually serve it. But what's really important is that the steak needs to sit on a warmed plate at quite decent temperature on the plate as well, otherwise you'll just be serving cold food. So I'm going to leave this steak now to rest while we make the peppercorn sauce. So it's at this stage that most people will discard the oil and reach for the packet of peppercorn sauce mix and feel like screaming at them and saying, do you realise you're about 3 minutes away from making the perfect peppercorn sauce without a packet mix in sight? So what we do next, this is the MALAT seasoning, the Montreal Steakhouse Seasoning which we had left. So I'm just going to mix the rest of that in. You don't have to do that, but I just think I'm addicted to this stuff, so I try and put as much in as possible. The next thing we want to do is add the tablespoon of plain flour. So we're just basically going to create a roux when we do this. So this flour just needs to cook through for about a minute. Obviously, being a peppercorn sauce, we need to add a decent amount of pepper. and also some sea salt. Okay, and we mix that in. And then gradually add in the 200 mils of semi-skimmed milk. Some people would add cream instead, but I think this is just as nice and obviously slightly more healthy with the semi-skimmed milk. So again, to make sure that you don't have any lumps, just add it a little bit at a time. Don't panic if it looks a little bit runny, this will definitely thicken up. Okay, so that's the peppercorn sauce done. Absolutely perfect. I can't tell you how good this smells. I can guarantee that's taken just 3 minutes, and I can guarantee if you do peppercorn sauce in this way, you will never ever go back to a packet mix again. Okay, so there you go. Steak with the best peppercorn sauce you will ever taste. So the basics of cooking a good steak, but the perfect peppercorn sauce. Hopefully you guys try it, you will never go back to a packet peppercorn sauce mix again. As usual, please subscribe to the channel, and if you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button. And I will have to admit, I've already tasted the steak because the smells of it are incredible. But I'll give it another go. Well, that peppercorn sauce is just amazing. So thanks for watching.